Hi, I'm Glenn Loury, and this is The Glenn Show, the podcast. I am a emeritus professor at Brown University and distinguished visiting fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford, and I am joined today by Ted Balaker and Courtney Balaker, filmmakers who are responsible for the wonderful documentary, The Coddling of the American Mind. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Glenn. It's an honor to be here.
I actually get mentioned in your film, I noticed. I was very happy to see that. But let me introduce us by just inviting you to talk a little bit about the project. You guys are a couple, I gather. And Ted, you were the director, and Courtney, the producer. Were you not on the Coddling of the American Mind project? I should mention that is based on the 2018 best-selling book by psychologist Jonathan Haidt and lawyer and free speech activist Greg Lukianoff, whose book, The Coddling of the American Mind, chronicled and analyzed the mental health anxiety crisis that they argue is plaguing the Generation Z young people in our country, and the role that social media plays in that, and so on. But how did you guys come to take up this project?
Well, we've known Greg and have worked with FIRE for many years, and so that was our first exposure to it. And frankly, reading the book, about 2/3 of the way through the book, there's a very harrowing account of a man who's on the verge of killing himself, basically. And it turns out that man is Greg Lukianoff, our friend. And we had no idea that he was struggling with severe depression like that. He's someone from the outside who seemed to have his act together, but we all know that looks can be deceiving. And we figured if someone like Greg, who's the head of this very prestigious nonprofit and very successful writer and attorney, is dealing with problems like this, how many other people who we know or acquainted with or our loved ones are dealing with anxiety and depression as well. On top of that, we have a 10-year-old of our own, and he's in Gen Alpha, as we learned fairly recently. And we hope to have done at least our part to help turn things around at least a little bit for his generation. So, on top of all that, it really is one of the Gen Z mental health crisis really is one of the biggest problems facing society today. I'm usually on the other side of issues saying, don't panic. But this is actually a time when we really do have to, I don't know if panic is the right word, but we really have to take this seriously.
I know Greg. In fact, I interviewed him recently about his new book with Nadine Strassen on arguments against free speech. And I did not know about his crisis before viewing your film, actually. Cognitive behavioral therapy, that was the answer, right, for him?
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that we found fascinating about the book is that through his own struggle with mental health and suicidal thoughts, as you know, Greg does a lot of work on college campuses with his amazing organization, FIRE. And he started to see college kids doing the same things mentally that he was doing that led him down that really dark path, catastrophizing, us versus them, tricks that everybody's mind plays on them, no matter what age you are. But it really startled him to see young people not only exhibiting the same bad thought behaviors that he was that led him to almost taking his own life, but he saw many college administrations encouraging these bad mental behaviors. And that is one of the main reasons he decided that this book needed to be written.
Encouraging these behaviors in what way?
Administrators on college campuses creating an environment where, as you see, several of our Gen Z interview subjects talking about, for instance, being told to find your trigger, feeling like when they entered the college campus, it was not this bastion of free thought and discussion. Rather, it was, what is your activism? Choose your side. So instead of going to a place where you're supposed to be exposed to many, many ideas and understand your own ideas and understand how to articulate your own ideas, these young people were being put in positions and situations socially, and not just socially, but by professors and administrators to uh, be offended, be upset, uh, and defend that feeling of being upset and really hold on to that almost like an identity. And that was making a lot of students miserable as opposed to empowering them, which is what I think they thought they were doing, but that's not what the evidence is showing.
You're using the past tense. Do you think that the pathology, if I can call it that, of this kind of hyper fragility focused interaction with young people continues to be a problem in for the kids in this age bracket?
Oh, I think it definitely does, and that's I've followed, for instance, the rise of the term microaggression, and it goes from this obscure academic term, first coined in the 1970s by a Harvard professor, and then kind of resurrected in 2007, and it took only about, by my estimations, 5 or 6 years to be pervasive, ubiquitous almost throughout the university system. And not only in the university system, you see it in Netflix movies, starring Colin Kaepernick, or just kind of sitcoms even. It pops up in Teen Vogue. And so you have these 13 and 14-year-olds who are speaking like they're sociology TAs or something like that. They're using this jargon that usually would be reserved for the halls of academia. And we know that the university system produces so many papers each year, and most of them are not really paid attention to, certainly not by the general public. And so it's very strange that you would have these terms like microaggression that almost in an instant, culturally speaking, seem to be everywhere, to the point where even we have a Substack, the Coddling movie Substack, and one of our writers, an Asian woman, talks about how the moms in her mom group, most of them are Asian, and they're using these terms microaggressions and so forth when dealing with just the innocuous day-to-day activities of their kids. And so even they are kind of in this hyper-vigilant state where they're looking for ways to color the world in a way that's not going to make them happy. It's the more that they do it, and we've seen that through the characters, the subject we follow in our movie, the more you attune yourself to that way of thinking, the more miserable you'll become.
Let's talk about the movie a little bit. It is told through the experiences, firsthand reported experiences of a series of interviewees that you guys engage. How did you figure out that was the approach you wanted to take to telling this story?
First of all, because it is about their generation, we thought it was incredibly important to hear the voice or voices from their generation, people who are on the ground, on the modern day college campus, what they're experiencing. And we also were encouraged to meet these young people who are coming out of these very dark mindsets that we just discussed, based on the culture of the campus, based on being encouraged to live a life being afraid or fragile. And so the voices of that experience are crucial. Greg's voice is crucial too. But the generation that is in college and just coming out of college, we wanted to talk to those kids and hear what's really going on. And finding them, and I'll let Ted talk about that more, but it was not easy. It was a bit of a challenge to find kids who could really like step back and have perspective on what's going on, especially either they were currently immersed in that system or they had just left it, and to have that hindsight or that reflection, we were very impressed by young people that we spoke to.
How did you find them, Ted?
Serendipity and hard work, I guess. There's no the folks who have seen the movie, what they always say, no matter what else they think about the movie, they love our interview subjects, and it's you just can't not love them. They're the kind of people you'd want to sit next to on a cross country flight. And
they're so honest about what's going on with them.
Right. And that was, so that's one thing that we really knew. It was hard to find them, but once you find somebody like a Kimi or a Saeed or an Ariane, you want to ask them to be in your movie. And so it was a process of, my background is in journalism. So just making a lot of phone calls, emails, talking to people, and kind of not really knowing exactly what our subject would be like, but again, as I said before, we knew when we found them that these were the ones. So it was a lot of serendipity and hard work. In one case, we kind of lucked out because Greg Lukianoff happened to find an article that Lucy, one of our interview subjects, a young lady who just graduated from Stanford, she had written an essay in Quillette, and he had happened to come across it. So we followed up with her. Then it becomes the task of convincing them that you're the right person to tell their story, that if they want to tell their story at all, because we deal with very, very sensitive issues. And we're just very grateful that these young people, all in their 20s, actually, because Lucy was 19 when we spoke with her, that they were so comfortable with us to open up as they did, because they're not, these are all young people who are dealing with anxiety, depression, in one way or another. And in Lucy's case, really went down the wormhole of social justice activism. It really made her miserable. But then she was able to turn things around, find happiness again. And so one of the messages that we hope to convey is that if someone is as lovely and thoughtful and intelligent as Lucy or Kimi, who had another similar path, if these people can fall prey to this harmful worldview, then really any of us can. So it's not, we don't want to say they're these suckers or these bad people who are obsessed with being victims. No, they really believe this stuff. They really, when they were using what they thought were improper words, they literally thought they were hurting other people. So there was a kindness and a humanity to people like Lucy. She was terrified to use the wrong word when interacting with another person, because she literally thought that she would harm them physically, because that's what she was taught from her environment on the college campus and elsewhere.
This is the young woman with autism?
Correct, yes.
There was a moment there where she says, she goes into a little exegesis about whether or not you say a person has autism. That means that you separated the autism from the person. That means the person doesn't exist. A kind of logic like that I thought was bizarre, but had its own kind of internal consistency in it. And you can see how it would drive people crazy, which appears to be the case. Okay, so the role of social media in this array of problems here, what do you guys have to say about that?
Yeah, Jonathan Haidt, obviously, he speaks wonderfully about this in the book, and he obviously appears in the film and talking about that strange year of 2013 when suicide and depression had a hockey stick, which you rarely see in terms of the increase of young people dealing with mental health. Now, social media, Ted and I are not of that generation. We didn't grow up with it. We did go to college. We liken it, I think even John says it this way: can you imagine every embarrassing thing you did in junior high school, now even elementary school, lives on the internet forever? The use of social media for people to define their worth by likes or interest or interaction. It's a lot. And it obviously had a huge impact for this generation, given when social media was invented and when people really started to use it. Ted mentioned we have a 10-year-old. We're very protective about that. We understand the dangers of it. I think girls use it differently than boys use it. So we have different issues going forward with our 10-year-old. But for my personal opinion, I don't think social media is good for young people, probably at all. There are some good things about it. There's some positive uses for it. But it is a very strange way, a strange path that interaction has taken. Ted and I used to go to the mall and hang out with our friends at parks and hiking trails and go on our bicycles. And apparently that's not how young people socialize as much anymore. It's not as in-person, it's on the phone. And that has its own consequences. And just the point of my identity is tied to how many followers, how many likes I have. I mean, for young people, that's pretty dangerous. So I no doubt that this was had a huge impact on the decline of mental health. We've screened this film at several colleges this past year. We were happy to learn that a lot of kids we were talking to that seemed like they were doing okay in college, they didn't get phones until they were 10. One kid didn't get one until 14, which shocked me. We have to deal with it. Our 10-year-olds friends are starting to get phones. And so how do you manage that? Your kid doesn't have one, they do. So a lot of it.
10-year-olds with phones.
Yeah, even as young as 7. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying unless it's managed or dealt with properly. But how do you do that unless you're kind of hovering over them the whole time? So our 10-year-old does not have a phone yet. We're pushing that off as long as we can for a variety of reasons. But yeah, it was astonishing to see social media, but it wasn't just social media. As Greg goes into his own experience, cognitive behavioral therapy, Glenn, that you just mentioned a moment ago, which Greg credits as saving his life. Retraining your brain how to not convince yourself of awful things about yourself. Social media can help people come up with a lot of awful thoughts about themselves, but ultimately, the good news is that you yourself can rewire your brain essentially to let those bad thoughts just be bad thoughts. Put those thoughts on trial. Okay, I keep telling myself I'm a lousy person. I'm useless. I'm unlovable. I'm bad at this. What's the evidence for that? This isn't just for young people. This is for everybody. Putting your thoughts on trial and seeing, just because I feel something and think something doesn't mean it's true and real. And that has nothing to do with social media. That has to do with just being a fully actualized person who can analyze a situation to try to get themselves out of it.
You know, I found very interesting some of the ideas of the diagnosis of the crisis around themes like binary thinking, catastrophizing. You know, something doesn't go my way, I feel the world's coming to an end. I'm worthless. Anti-fragility as a principle. I'm not fragile. I'm actually strong. Challenges to me are the basis for me to grow, and overcoming these obstacles is a necessary step toward achieving my full potential and things like that. So I thought that was great. How's the film doing?
It's doing very well. We had a very unusual release. It's the film itself. There's a backstory to that because we tried to go not the usual way. I should say maybe the mainstream way. And so we had a meeting with the studio early on, and it turned out to be a disaster. They said they liked the idea of helping young people who are struggling with mental health issues, but they said, and this was in late 2020. So in some sense, I don't want to say it was a different time, but it certainly, the tension was much more acute. They said it would take just one person on Twitter, back then it was still called Twitter, to say, why did this studio greenlight this movie now in the wake of George Floyd? They were worried that it would be considered anti-Black Lives Matter. At that moment, we had not shot any footage at all.
Excuse me for interrupting, but the irony doesn't escape me of them exemplifying precisely the pathology that you're trying to analyze in the film.
Exactly, Glenn. And it was weird for us because a few years prior, we made a different documentary called Can We Take a Joke, which examined outrage culture and stand-up comedy. It featured Gilbert Gottfried and Penn Jillette and other famous comedians. And back then, Hollywood was telling me, oh, this thing, cancel culture, doesn't exist. And flash forward to our meeting, and they were ruled by it. They were ruled by this thing that they told us didn't exist. And they didn't like the fact that I was a straight white male director. They said that would only add fuel to the inevitable fire that was going to come. And we're Courtney and I have been doing this for a lot of years, so it's not like we were completely surprised. So we have low standards for what the entertainment, the mainstream entertainment industry will accept in terms of diversity of viewpoint. But we had to ratchet down our already low expectations. They told us it would piss off viewers. We had a different distributor who told us it would piss off viewers. And yes, it has pissed off some viewers, but it's connected with and emboldened and given voice to many, many others. We've been on, I think it's over 60 college campuses in 5 countries. Steven Pinker invited us to come to Harvard. We've been traveling all over the place. It's available on Prime Video, Apple TV, Google Play. We released it first on Substack because we knew that they had a commitment to free speech. So we were the very first Substack Presents feature film. And that actually worked out really well because we were able to build an audience of very devoted supporters and fans, and then go out into the more typical outlets such as Prime Video, Apple TV, and Google Play. And so then our base kind of became evangelists for the movie. Jonathan Haidt went on the Today Show to promote it. We were with Dr. Drew. Elon tweeted it, which is good and bad depending on who's watching. We've had lots of opportunities to speak with people who don't already agree with us. And the motto of our production company is making important ideas entertaining. But another thing we say just almost as often is don't just preach to the converted. So these days, everybody is speaking to their own tribes. And this is one thing you do so beautifully, Glenn. You don't just preach to the converted. I think people like you and Bill Maher and some others, you've probably dragged lots of people out of insanity, probably far more than you realize, because you're not just preaching to a particular tribe. And so we aspire to be like that. And in fact, you even saw Lucy, the woman, the young lady who was struggling with mental health problems, and she's the autistic young lady from Stanford. She credits the Glenn Show as one of the things that really helped open her mind to a whole new world of ideas. That here she was on Stanford, one of the greatest, most respected institutions for higher learning on the planet, and she'd never heard anything like the things that you were saying. And she realized, no, I'm not a bad person because I don't agree with what everybody else is saying on campus. And there's this very intelligent guy in Glenn Loury who's saying these things that kind of, I had an inkling that that's where the truth really was, more in that direction. And so it's people like you, other people in the heterodox community, that really help open people's eyes. And they're not just preaching to the converted. They can speak to people who are open-minded on both sides of the aisle.
Well, nice to hear that we're doing some good out here, trying to speak the truth as we understand it, and trying to fight against the closed-mindedness and the narrowness of the identitarian-focused kind of politics of woke I almost hesitate to use the word because it's become so much of a cliche. What's the solution here? How do we get out of this mess?
Independent and critical thinking. Stop following the herd. A lot of the, sort of basic logical things that you would tell your best friend if they were going through something horrible. Not tying one's identity only to activism. Having conversations in a civil manner again. This binary thinking that you referenced just a moment ago, and I mean that it doesn't bring people together. It doesn't seem to be working. People seem to feel pretty divided. College campuses, obviously each one is different, but unfortunately there's still a very strong, powerful culture of what team are you on? Don't let this speaker come to campus because we don't like their ideas. Well, then don't go watch them speak. Critical thinking, independence. This is typically when people, and you saw with our interview subjects, when they started to come out of these dark places, and some of them were canceled because they stood up and thought independently. Every single one of them, once they stopped following the herd, once they stopped censoring themselves, once they just started feeling more comfortable in their own skin again and speaking their ideas freely, even knowing that they might not be popular ideas, that's when they started to feel good again, or at least more like themselves. Saeed, one of our interview subjects, was this great moment where he saw, here I am on campus and I'm saying one thing, but I'm thinking something completely different. I'm not even agreeing with what I'm saying sometimes. And I mean, that kind of cognitive dissonance is hell for anybody.
This is the Nigerian young man who immigrated here to go to college, a small liberal arts college somewhere.
That's correct.
Lafayette
That's right.
College, yeah.
Very impressive individual, Saeed.
He is. Yeah, he's great. We've become good friends with him. He's come with us. I think he might have been to more screenings with us than any other subject. He might have been. He's been in a lot with us. And yeah, he came to college to Pennsylvania at Lafayette College in the fall of 2016. Didn't even know who Donald Trump was. didn't know what conservative meant in the American context or liberal. And 5 minutes after he's on campus, everybody's demanding that he choose a side, and it's very clear to him that his reputation is on the line. So that if he chooses the wrong side, he could face the death of his reputation. And so his story is one that we tell. And he goes to a very, very dark place, and thankfully is able to turn it around.
I heard him say, and I was stunned, that he was standing on the curb watching the traffic go by, imagined that if he just stepped off and got hit, this would be a way of ending his life without embarrassing his family because it would look like it was an accident. And I thought, oh my God, all of that over politics, over popularity among your peers, over having to deal with ridicule because, you come from a culture where race is not understood in the same terms as it is here. That was shocking to me.
Yeah, and to us as well. It was such a, it's one of the most powerful moments of the film when someone, if viewers who see the movie, they can't help but love Saeed. He's so tender and so thoughtful and so funny. It's just whenever we watch it in the theater, people are always laughing very loudly at Saeed's observations. He's such a clever and insightful young man. And to think that someone as passionate and just open-minded and thoughtful and tender as Saeed came that close to ending his life. And it's easy for us, those of us who are decades out of being undergrads, it almost seems bizarre. Like, how could you, so what? People think of you this way or that way. That's not the whole world. But we forget how intimidating a college campus can be, especially if you're an immigrant as Saeed was, or just you're in a different city, or you're in a super elite university. There's many different reasons why it can be very intimidating to set foot on a college campus, especially if it seems like all the smart people, all your professors, all the loudest voices on campus think in one direction. There's that's a lot of incentive to kind of get with the program, and you have to really consider: do I want to really explore ideas the way that maybe you thought college was there to help you do, or do you want to just toe the line and say what everybody else is saying because that's the path towards better grades, towards more friends, towards less and fewer hassles. It's a very terrible situation that a lot of young people have to deal with these days. We hope that college could return or become that place where it was a free marketplace of ideas, something close to it. That's kind of what Saeed was hoping for. In the movie, he talks about the Oxford Debate Society and how he would watch that on YouTube, and he just kind of associated kind of any elite Western university with that mindset, where you can go there and just kind of learn and talk and be wrong and explore ideas, and that's just part of the intellectual exercise of becoming smarter and less wrong over time. But he encountered something very different, unfortunately.
Well, I'll confess to being somewhat amused. I've been a college teacher for almost a half century. And when he described was it Oxford debating society where everybody's got on a suit and they're all civil and both sides are being considered with equal respect and whatnot. And I thought, what a laugh. That's what he thought an American university was like.
I know. It's a lot of false advertising.
He's seen too many 1940s movies, you know.
Dead Poet Society version of college, right? Robin Williams on a desk being inspiring. Kids having a healthy, dynamic debate.
He actually mentioned Dead Poets Society. We didn't use that in the movie, but that was another kind of cultural moment, a movie that he referenced that was in his mind, thinking that it would be like Dead Poets Society. And as you saw, there was nothing like that at all.
He arrived in the fall of 2016, just as that election was culminating. The election of 2024 has culminated. Donald Trump won that election. The last time I looked, DEI was on the run in terms of institutional stability because it had been discredited. The Supreme Court has overturned affirmative action. Harvard is in the dock with their research budgets held hostage to making a deal with the administration. Do you think the politics of the situation about higher education are shifting in the right direction now, and that this could be one way in which the kind of reforms that Courtney was talking about can actually get implemented?
I think there definitely are some good things that are happening, but I think that people who are celebrating the demise of this harmful worldview are doing so far too prematurely. I think that you have a lot of organized interest groups who will still get a lot of funding, despite what the current controversies. So I think that the structural power of the modern university will, I think, outlive any present political impulse against it. And then, unfortunately, even the people who are oftentimes making good progress against these ideas are not free speech champions themselves. And so that undermines their position and just the position of the university as being a marketplace of ideas, not just...
I'm sorry, Ted, what are you referring to?
Well, when you have, for instance, what Trump is doing with a lot of the executive orders, we're often very happy to see what he's doing, but it would be far better if he were also communicating kind of the ideal of a university that that it should be a free marketplace of ideas. A lot of the moves he's taken do seem quite political. So it's not so much to unleash free speech; it's to have one side win over the other side. And I think that might be good politics in the short term, but I think it tends to undermine the argument for those who want the university to really be a free marketplace of ideas, where it's not just like we're trying to. We should be against cancel culture on both sides. For instance, like Greg Lukianoff, you interviewed him recently. In his prior book, not the coddling of the American mind, but the canceling of the American mind, he shows that unfortunately, the right is oftentimes very happy to use the same tactics and to cancel people who disagree with them instead of arguing a position on the merits. And I think a lot of times politicians and activists they are hoping for a short-term win, but they're not seeing the long-term damage if we become a society that is kind of where we have a lot of part-time defenders of free speech, where the free speech for me, but not for thee point of view. We should be. We had a great opportunity, and lots of people, yourself included, are showing how the university has stepped into some really terrible territory, becoming an intellectual monoculture in many cases. The prevalence of the chilling effect, self-censorship, which you write about so often. And we need to be able to say that that's a bad thing, regardless of which side is in power. And we shouldn't just be eager to gain the levers of power just to annoy the other side, and then complain when they do the same to us when they're in power.
And I read between the lines that, unfortunately, in your opinion, sometimes President Trump doesn't uphold that kind of neutrality.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. On the one hand, I do cheer when he issues some of those executive orders, but I cringe when I think about the lost moments where I think, frankly, even for his political legacy, I think longer term, if he were to take the higher ground and say that we will not do to you what you have done to us, I think that that could have a longer lasting positive impact.
I'm inclined to agree with that. A 10-year-old. Man, you guys have got your hands full. You're homeschooling this kid, I take it.
We are.
Yeah.
We are homeschooling him.
Is it a boy or a girl?
He is a boy. And he was in a more traditional private school before the pandemic shut down. And then everyone was sort of homeschooling, even if their kids were enrolled in a school. Everyone was kind of doing it, whether they liked it or not. And in the homeschool community, we didn't know too much about it. Ted, he did far more research than I had at the time. It's very vibrant. It's very dynamic. It's filled with co-ops and communities where we don't want our children to be boxed into any curriculum. We want freedom, independent thought. We want our son to love learning. We don't want him to see learning as a daunting task or a boring day in a room with the same people over and over again. He's taken to it wonderfully. We've met great people who are on the same path as us. He's been to many of these college campus screenings that we've mentioned, which he really enjoys. He's met lots of college kids. He's met lots of professors. And if he were at a traditional school, we couldn't drag him around the country like we did last year, taking him to all of these interesting events and meeting all these really great people of all ages. But we think that it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a growing community too. I think that the pandemic shutdown definitely shifted a lot of parents' thinking on, well, what is this education that I'm either paying for or my tax dollars is paying for? I want more control. I want to have more say in how my child is learning and what they're learning. So we love it so far, and we love talking to anyone who's curious about it or even critical of it. But it's been great, and our son, he's fantastic, and he was really excited that we were talking to you today. He's seen you in our film many times, as he's seen the film many times. So, but it's been great.
That's nice to hear. It's been a long time since I had to think about educating my children. My youngest is 34.
Well,
yeah.
But I'll tell you this, the idea of being responsible for their education is a terrifying prospect to me, even in my mind's eye. I mean, that's an awesome responsibility.
Well, I'm happy to hear that it terrifies you too. That makes me feel a little better. It certainly terrifies us, thinking that he might, what's next? Is it college? And with homeschool, it's really we like to say it's not any one thing. And so what's good for a kid at age 7, 8, 9 might be something. He might be ready for something different at 10, 11, 12, 13. And so it's an evolution, and it kind of keeps you on your toes. But it's definitely helpful that we're here in a community where a lot of other people are doing it. And I was able to benefit from mentors of mine growing up, and in the workplace where they were homeschooling their kids. And so I can kind of just take a look and remember, wait, what did they do at this point again? And maybe that would work for our son as well.
Can you take a joke? Is that what you said is the earlier project of yours?
Yeah. Can we take a joke? Yeah.
Can we take a joke? Tell me about that. I'm just curious. I haven't seen the film.
Yeah, sure. Can We Take a Joke was the very first mainstream movie about cancel culture. It wasn't even called cancel culture back then. It was called outrage culture. And so we interviewed a bunch of comedians, including the late, great Gilbert Gottfried, and Penn Jillette, our good friend Kareth Foster, and others, about the state of comedy. Lenny Bruce plays a big role. His encounter with censorship, and basically we wanted, when we make our movies, we don't want to just make a movie about free speech, because very few people really care about that at a conceptual level. So you have to find the bacon with the broccoli, as we say sometimes. And everybody likes stand-up comedy, so we use that as the bacon, and then we can kind of sneak in some stuff about free speech too. But you don't really have to sneak it in, because it's just society. It's the way that we live. Humans love to tell jokes. We love stories. We're storytelling animals. And when it's also very human to be offended by certain jokes, and maybe we should be offended, and maybe we should avoid certain topics, but also maybe we should learn to think about what that society would look like if we wanted to omit every joke that offended somebody. I mean, you can imagine going through that list of like, okay, we'll cross out this offends this group, this offends this group. You're not left with a lot of jokes, with a lot of material, and a lot of what people who are often offended on behalf of other people fail to do is actually talk to people in whatever group that they're supposedly speaking for. Because what we see over and over in conversations and revealed in surveys is that these groups who are spoken on who people speak for are often enjoy comedy and enjoy being involved in the joke far more than the activist mindset would have you believe. There was this one great story of a handicapped man who would frequent a comedy club. He was there all the time, and every time the comedians would just overlook him. He's wheelchair bound, very severely handicapped. They're doing crowd work, kind of making jokes with everybody else, overlooking him. One day, a comedian didn't overlook him. He made him part of the show. He made jokes about him. And then that handicapped man went back after the show to thank the comedian. He said, you've made me part of the community. Everybody else was afraid to joke with me, to joke about me. But thank you for treating me like everybody else. And so I think comedy is something that it's a beautiful thing that we can all share. I don't know if you go to comedy clubs, but you're kind of squashed in there. It's the worst seating possible. You had 2-drink minimum. You're not sure who the comedians are. You're surrounded by people of different races from different countries, even maybe different ages. And yet, when the joke is good, everybody's laughing, and you're all laughing together. And it's almost like we all got there driving through traffic, and it was tense. And we might not like the guy next to us because he's like nudging us too closely, and he's elbowing us, and he laughs too loud. But then when we all laugh together, it's a beautiful moment of humanity. It's almost like a thunderstorm in summer where like the humidity is finally broken. And for a while, at least, until we go back into traffic hell, we can kind of feel like we're kind of on the same page, and it's this little exercise in shared humanity rather than kind of dividing us up into different groups. Even though comedians often do, poke fun of different groups, but that's the beauty of it. Like if you can laugh at yourself, at your foibles, then you're probably a more interesting person to be around. People probably are going to want to be around someone like that rather than someone who's looking to be offended all the time.
Well, and to tag on to that just really quickly, Glenn,
Sure.
the idea that we focus mainly on why are artists getting in trouble for jokes, for their art, essentially. Gilbert Gottfried told the story. I don't know if you remember. He used to be the voice of the Affleck duck, and which was a very lucrative gig. And he got fired because he tweeted out a joke about the tsunami that happened that year.
Japan.
And he got fired from Affleck. And then everybody thought, everyone was so upset, so angry at Gilbert Gottfried. Well, that was his brand of humor. He told inappropriate jokes. That's what he was famous for. We focus on censorship in comedy, and in the United States, the worst thing is you can get fired, you can lose an Affleck, a huge commercial gig like Gilbert Gottfried did, or you're just banned from comedy clubs. In certain parts of the world, it's even worse. People are imprisoned for jokes. People are murdered for jokes. People are attacked, physically harmed over it. And Lenny Bruce, as Ted mentioned, he plays a huge role sort of throughout the film. He faced jail time for his jokes. I think he was telling jokes about the Catholic Church, and there were some Catholic cops at the back of the club who didn't like that. And so it's a bigger question, as Ted said. There's defending the art form, but then there's also it's completely tied to free speech. And when you start shutting down the comedians, that's usually not good for civilization as a whole, because there's a domino effect and a chilling effect to that.
Yeah, well, I love comedy. A good friend of mine is Noam Dworman, who's the proprietor at Comedy Cellar. We've actually done a couple of Glenn Show episodes live from the Comedy Cellar kind of thing. I've always thought that there were things comedians could say that nobody else could say because they have the cover of plausible deniability because it's a joke. It's, how does Bill Maher put it? I kid Lindsey Graham. Well, he's not kidding when he goes after Lindsey Graham. We know he's not kidding, but he's got this cover. I'm a comedian. I'm just telling a joke. So when you shut that down, when you cut off that way of ridiculing stuff that's ridiculous, criticizing stuff that is, pompous and self-important and whatnot, and bringing up counter arguments that are unpopular but that may be true, you're cutting off something really important, I think.
Yeah, and
absolutely,
I agree. And you should know, Glenn, Noam is in our movie. He's in Can We Take a Joke? So your buddy is there. We interview him.
Oh, okay. I've got to go check that out.
Yeah, you can see it on Prime Video and other places. And we're working on another movie called Troubled that also features a fan of Glenn Loury, Robert Henderson. He has this best-selling memoir called Troubled. That's our next project, and that's
this is the luxury beliefs guy.
Exactly, yeah. This is going to be a narrative with actors.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. He was excited.
He's an interesting fellow.
Yeah. So that's our next one. That'll be a narrative with actors, not a documentary. And but it does cover some similar territory to the Coddling. So we're excited for that one too.
Okay, the Coddling movie, is that what your Substack is called?
Yeah, it's the Coddling movie Substack. And if people want to see the movie, you can just go to thecoddlingmovie.com and it shows all the places to see it. Or you could check it out on Prime Video, Google Play, Apple TV, or like I mentioned, you can actually watch it on Substack as well.
Anything else you want to add before we close?
I guess just stay tuned for Troubled the movie, the Rob Henderson story. Lots of people in your audience will be excited to hear his story. They've read the book, I think, and he's a big fan of yours.
I've read the book. I've had him on the show.
Yeah. He's great. And if anyone's interested in continuing the journey with the Coddling, please just check out our Substack, The Coddling Movie.
Which is a great resource. I perused it. I didn't subscribe, so I wasn't able to read all the posts, but I'm still young. There's time for me to subscribe.
Lots of time. Yeah. We've got to work better at persuading you. So we'll get on that.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Courtney. I so much appreciate you giving us your time, and congratulations on a fantastic film. And I hope everybody sees it.
Thank you so much,
Glenn. Thank you so much for having
it.
us.
You're welcome.